Welcome to the Canarian International Meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Mossy and I'm an Alcoholic Serving as your secretary today. Now, could you please join me for a moment's silence to remember the still suffering alcoholic both inside and outside the room. And Kathleen is going to do the preamble for us. It'll be shown up on the screen there for you, Kathleen.
My name is Kathleen and I'm an alcoholic. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other that they may solve their common problems and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is an honest desire to stop drinking. AA has no dues or fees, is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any cause. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety.
Thank you, Kathleen, and thank you, Bruce. A warm welcome goes out to any newcomers or anyone returning to Alcoholics Anonymous. The chat is now disabled until the end of the meeting. That's it, guys. We're going straight into the meeting. Blandine has volunteered gracefully to share her experience, strength, and hope with us today. You have about 40 minutes, Blandine. So do your thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mossy, so much for my anonymity. I'm the only Blandine in Northern Ireland. There's not too many in the world either, but never mind. And I was laughing because I was putting a box and I was putting the light on and I was thinking, setting up the stage, you know. But I'm not setting up the stage today. I know it's just about handing it over and being of service is important. And I forgot to say my name is Blandine and I'm an alcoholic. And yeah, a day at a time. What it was like, I left from very young, left home from very young. Where I come from, I was, materially, I would have had everything I needed, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, it would have been totally dysfunctional, and physically too, totally dysfunctional. And so very young, you know, I got to, I would say when I got to have my first taste of alcohol, I was at a party. I was to be in boarding school and instead I went back and I went to a party and I was about 14, 15. I haven't been able to calculate exactly the date, but and I was there because I wanted to be part of. And I can only remember smoking a bit of dope, which I wanted to do too, and a bottle of beer. And next thing I remember, it was nighttime, and something happened in between. I don't know if I drank a lot. I don't know if I took more drug. I suspect maybe my drink had been spiked. I don't know. But I came around and something had happened in between, and a lot of people died for less, you know. And instead I thought, more drink I'm going to take, more drug I'm going to take, and more I'm going to be able to face up to life, you know, and be part of. Because inside, you know, inside I was very lost, you know. There was, I just couldn't find my place, you know. And I come to see that. So I went on, like, education-wise, I ended off school because I was an escape from home. But education-wise, I end up, you know, the hell with everybody and everything. I became a clown. I was, you know, looking for attention seeking and all this, you know, and it's really, and I think, you know, in some way I wasn't able to be, I know I wasn't able to be in touch with my feeling and my emotion. You know, I learned from very young to suppress them. And so it got to that eventually I had to leave the boarding school because I didn't get through my exams, and I ended up in Paris, and I started running away. I started mixing up with more people who, drug was a big attraction to me. And drug, you know, with drug were, if it wasn't drug, it was drink, you know, but drink, I would always have been really sick, you know, and there was that period first that I was in between before I started running away. I was put in something happened at home and I ran away in the middle of the night, and I was put in homes and I ran away from homes. I slept in doorways. I just, and then I went on the road, you know, and I would have been about 16 then. I would have begged in the street. I was thinking even the other day I would have took food even from the bin, you know, and I would have begged to get money for smoke, and drink play a big part, and drugs. And so that went on, and every so often is that pattern in my life for a long time. It would have been that I destroy myself with drink and with drug, a bit like binges, you know, but my binges would have lasted maybe 6 months. And then I would have stopped, and then I would have built my life again and get a good job, or get a job. And in the job, I would have been promoted very fast because I was a good worker and I was really committed. And then I just couldn't feel I couldn't fit in. I just didn't feel any, you know, it didn't mean anything to me. Or I felt rejected, or my low self-esteem, all my insecurity, all that made it. Then I took a drink. And when I took a drink and drugs, I couldn't guarantee what happened. And somebody in Paris said to me, why don't you go to London? She knew of a squat in London where there was 500 people. And there was a German girl who spoke French and French, and of course English too, yeah. And so I spoke German. I was fluent in German at the time, and French, and I did just a little bit of English. So I went to that squat, and all the drugs was coming. No, a lot of drugs were coming to that squat. So I got more into drug. I became a junkie. I did sweet like LSD. And you know, and I drank Thousand Comforts, and Thousand Comfort became my drink, and only pure. And many blackouts, many waking up in strange places, you know. I mean, the money I got was put into drink, because drugs, I could manage to get drugs and sell enough to get enough for my consumption. And end up in an abusive relationship in places, you know, like if my daughter did even a bit of what I did today, I would cringe, you know. And again, you know, you hear a story of people who died for a lot less, you know. And I didn't think there was any other life for me, you know. So, you know, they talk about that feeling of doom, you know. And it was a feeling of doom, but doom had always been kind of part of my life. So I saw. But on inside, you know, my grandmother on my mother's side and my grandfather, they had a meal in the countryside, and they would have grown vegetables about 6 months of the year. There'd be vegetables, there'd be fruits, there'd be flowers, a bit of a river, a bit of spring, forest, you know. And I used to love being there, you know. I would have called it my little heaven. But even that had disappeared in my head, you know. I forgot about that, and I kept running. And I do believe today, you know, I ran out of fear, but I ran out of resentment, but my resentment was based on fear, you know. And it took me a long time to see that, you know. And anyway, I went on then in London. I met someone that, and I thought, you know, I need a child, you know. And I became pregnant, and he was from Northern Ireland. And I told him, I don't care what you're doing, I'm going to Northern Ireland. And at the time, he was a trouble. And I arrived there in Warren Pond after there had been a big explosion. And I thought it was the best place on earth. And there I stopped being a junkie. I tried once after since, but I stopped it, you know, every day. And I just kept smoking dope a bit, and I tried to control the drink. And I wanted to be the best mother, you know. I wanted to be a good mother, you know. And I wanted to, the way a house in the prairie. And my partner kept wanted drink and drug. He kept disappearing and to London, and he was a gambler also. But as far as he was concerned, I was worse than him, you know. Not even an alcoholic would drink with me. You know, I was really, like, when I went, I was a total head case, like totally insane, you know, totally crazy, like, you know. And nobody could tell me any different, you know. But so our relationship didn't, you know, whatever reason, what he did or didn't do, it doesn't matter. It gets back to me, you know. So it didn't last. And partly at that time I'd started drinking again. And then it got worse, you know, and I took my children to a place where we lived. We end up homeless. We end up in bed and breakfast. And I end up in a really bad place in Northern Ireland. There was troubles. I was terrorized. We had broken windows. My children had to live in the street and fend for themselves. And I couldn't see anything wrong. You know, I had a job. I actually got a really top job, even at one stage that I became a PA. Within a short time, I was to go to China to work for the government of China. But my children didn't have a healthy, emotionally and mentally and spiritually and physically even. I wasn't capable of being a parent, you know. I wasn't capable of even having any kind of quality of life, you know. And so I went on that pattern, you know. I would work really hard, and then comes the weekend, or you know, it was a big quantity, you know, and again, Southern Comfort, and then you get a bottle of brandy and you go looking for more, and you get in strange relationship and abusive relationship. You want to be loved, but you don't know where to get love. You want to be happy, but you don't know how to be happy, you know, and it progressed. It was at one stage, it was during the weeks. I had a partner it was Wednesday, and then we would go out on Friday again, and on Saturday night, you know, and he would have drank vodka, and he would put it in front of me, and I would drink it. And I never liked vodka, but I drank it just to get out, you know. And of course, I wasn't capable to have any healthy relationship. I wasn't capable of loving. If you love me, I would have pushed you away. And if you didn't, I would have done everything for you to love me. And then when you love me, I would have got rid of you. You know, I just couldn't trust. And that went on, and it progressed. And eventually, you know, pushed away my two children, my two eldest boys. They were teenagers, and I pushed them away. And thank God their father was there for them. And I had a young child, and we stopped drinking and driving, 2.5-year-old. And you know, and that day I asked for help. You know, my brother took his life 2.5 years prior to that, and I was getting a lot of memory from childhood trauma. I had complicated grief from him taking his life, the way I was told about it, the way everything around it, you know, what had happened before. And he was found dead after 3 months. And so I was in a bad shape, 6.5 stone, diagnosed in the hospital, was chronic depressive with alcohol dependency. And I had gone to mental health after my brother died, and with all the trauma, memory of trauma. And this time the doctor said to me, what happened to you this time? Because even where I lived, you know, I was being, as I say, you know, broken windows, I was being terrorized and all. And nobody was going to make me move, you know. I was going to stand, you know, fight it, you know. I stood for my right, like what I thought were my right. But I say, what happened to you? So I told him this, and this one is doing this. The father of my children wasn't supportive of the youngest child. Whatever happened to me as a child, what they're doing, the neighbors are doing, everybody, I was full of resentment, you know, and full of fear. Most of my resentment, they based on fear. And it took me a while to see that. And he said to me, he looked really sad actually, and I was crying, and he gave me a box of tissue. And he said, if you don't stop drinking, I can't help you. But there was also the fact that when I was waiting to see him, I was on the stand beside the chair. There was a 20 question, and I had answered 18 question. So that probably planted the seed, you know, when he said to me, would you consider going to AA? And I say, I heard about it, but I'm not too sure. I'd be afraid to meet people like the one that hurt me in my life. And he say, you will meet people like that, but you will meet some very special people too. I can guarantee you that, you know. And 2 women came and 12-stepped me. And one of them, I talked to her later, and she said, I never shut up. But anyway, I had plenty of reason why I drank. I had plenty of reason, you know, plenty of things to cry about, you know. And people who knew me and where I lived and all, they would have said, even people who came in AA later on, they said, no wonder you drank. But what I come to see is not the fact that I drank, you know, it's the fact that when I take a drink, I can't guarantee what happened. And I can't stop. Me being me, I can't stop. I can't guarantee I can stop. You know, most of the time, there was time I could stop at once. There was time I wouldn't drink at all. But most of the time when I took a drink, it was carnage, you know. I hurt other people, I hurt my children, and most of all, I hurt myself, you know. And so I went to the meeting, and the lady who 12-stepped me, she, you know, I felt the warmth, you know. It was the room, it was like Barney was there because he signed my big book, and the room was like a ship, and it makes you think of the Titanic, you know. And he mentions that in the big book, and that feeling of warmth, that feeling I had a vision is like the last voyage, you know. But I felt that warmth, and I felt I belong. And the lady said to me, Maggie is the most important things in your life. So when I came, I didn't want to get out of hospital, but when I got out, it was like an awakening. I had no concept of God, and it was whoever, whatever you are, please help me not to drink today. And where is the meeting? And I had to learn to eat, I had to learn to sleep, and to learn to wash. I couldn't work for many years. When I worked, I did a bit of charity work, but I couldn't function. I was really, my brain, I could hardly speak French, never mind English. And my brain was in such a state, you know. I had mental illness, very severe mental illness, I had post-traumatic stress, you know, and but I kept going to a day at a time. Went to the meeting, listen, you know, try to listen, learn to listen. And I started saying that serenity prayer, and I could feel I was being carried, you know. I could, you know, there was something annoying me, and I would say the serenity prayer, and it seems to pass, and it didn't happen as bad as I thought it would. And then one day I was sitting in the room, and I looked at the step, and I thought, you know, someone had said it to me, you created to be joyous and free. And I got to think this program is, you know, I was never me, you know, between what happened, what people done to me or what I done myself. I was never, you know, joyous and free. But I came to believe this program was going to make me fund that person. As that's what it's been, a day at a time. I had to ask for help. And I chose the person because she seems to be in charge, and it didn't work. I chose the second in command, and she couldn't help me because she hadn't done the program. And a friend died 2 years in a friend collapsed at 40-year-old. Her kidney and her liver collapsed, and she died. She had taken a drink again. And I felt totally bankrupt, physically, mentally, and spiritually, and emotionally. I was totally bankrupt. And someone said, without help, it is too much. And I went back to the first meeting I had been outside, and I asked God to show me. And there was 2 women in the room, and one woman left the room. And the one remaining in the room, I asked her could she help me? And 2 years prior, at my first meeting in that group, she was the first woman who wrote on a piece of paper, ring me anytime in capital letter. And I rang everybody but her. And there I was, you know, I asked her, and I was afraid of her. She was younger than me, but she was very strict, very firm. And she had done her program in the States. And basically, we met once a week. And we read the big book from the first line for the first word, and she showed me how she could identify it. And she encouraged me to identify it, you know. And then to really, like, when I went through the steps with her, I went so far to step 4. And you know, she started telling me I need to make amends to my father, and I couldn't do that, you know. But she moved away. Another woman came in my life, you know, and each one, you know, taught me things. There was the one who came after. We went as far as step 6, you know, and then she wrote down, you know, let go, let God, keep it simple, you know, take it easy. And for me, I come to see, you know, then that it was my shortcomings, you know. That's the way I look at them today, you know, and just to keep it simple, you know, first thing first, all for the grace of God. You know, the whole message for me is that, you know, make it simple for me to remember what I need to do and what works, you know. And then there was another woman came in my life, and she was like a spirit, because each woman was the one who got me to step 7. She sponsored another girls that I resented, you know, and they were best friend. And of course I took resentment and I moved away, you know. And then I had a lady, she was like a spiritual advisor. She was in AA, and she practiced the program, but she didn't do much literature or much writing. And I was the one bringing the literature to her most of the time, but she had that way of living, and she had me to be able to open my heart a bit more, you know, to be more tolerant, to be more humble in many ways. And I had the privilege of being by her side, you know, when she was dying, you know, she had cancer, she was in bed, and we were holding hand and saying the Serenity prayer, you know, and I took sick. I nearly died then. I had septicemia, and we had the privilege to be able to share about the fear of death, you know, and she thought I would die before her, and she went before me. And you know, it just made me. I had a friend there who died recently, there end of July, and she was there when I came in here. She took me to meetings. She was English, and her children and my children grew up together for a long time, and then we kind of went apart, but we kept in touch. And when she was dying there a few months ago, she asked for me to be there, you know, so I was with her. I had the privilege to be there with her and her sons for 4 days. And one of her sons say, you know, how grateful he was, and wrote me a card to say he will always be there for me, anything I need, you know. And but just the love I got from those people, the love I get from that family, I never got it from my own family. Is totally different, you know, from I would say my mother or the rest of my family. They don't understand me. Not that I need understood, but like, I mean, I just don't mix as well, you know. Today I have the love of my children. I have my eldest son, he wanted nothing to do with me. He's still very damaged by his past. And but he had a little girl 5 years ago. And he's very protective of her. But he let me mind her now, you know. And at Christmas he was getting a bit he was angry again. I think he was under stress financially or whatever, and he was angry at me. And I tried not to react. But I got the message that maybe he was going to keep his daughter away from me, that he didn't trust me. And I got afraid, and then I just could just let go, you know, and trust in God. You know, that's what this program teach me. And 2 weeks after, my granddaughter asked to have sleepover with me, you know, and she's been sleeping over nearly every weekend now, you know. And he's in better form now, so he has passed whatever. You know, I have a Sobriety baby. She's 23, and she told me about a year ago that I used to be psycho, you know, and that's the reality of me, is that, you know, for me, it's a day at a time. I needed to look at this program, you know, go over that program again more than once. I still need to look at it, but go over it, and I come to see a better way, you know, to see how it works and how simple it can be, you know, because I still, my mind couldn't comprehend a lot of it, you know, but it is a simple program. And for me, it's on awakening, you know, and Barney said it, you know, and it's something that I realized I used to do and I've stopped doing, you know, is you surrender before you pray, you know. I remember my first year in AA, I would be on my knee and I would have say the steps 3 and 7, 5 times maybe, until I meant it from the bottom of my heart, until I really meant to humble myself fully. Of myself, I can't stop drinking, I can't stay stop. Of myself, in every department of my life, I will repeat exactly the same thing. I even living, I can't do it of myself. So I need to hand over, you know, hand over all my defect, hand over all my will, you know, all what I think I know, you know, all that I need to hand it over. And then I would do the prayers, as I say, 3 and 7, St. Francis prayer too. Someone gave me or suggested I read also the 12-step prayer book. And there's a great prayer every day that kind of go with the daily reflection. I would go to a lot meeting. I would do service too, because for me, I don't know if it was said to me or I heard it, but the door were open for me. It's my duty to keep them open, you know. Nobody is paid for it, you know, and it's my way of giving back, you know. It's my way of get out of me too, you know. And it's also, you know, that my brother died. My brother went to places like he was an ape, and like And, even my friend died, and the father of my children died, and today, in some way, in their memory, I need to, to be there, to be available to whatever I can do, it's my way of giving to them what I, to other people, what I couldn't give them, and it doesn't mean I can save people. I don't think I can save people. For a long time. I thought I could, so I could fix people. Really today is only keep working on fixing me, as what I say, the prayer and the meditation. So praying, talking to God, meditating, talking, listening to God. And I did a lot of meditation in Knock, and it was quite powerful, to be able to be grounded again and to reconnect with my heart, And my inventory, keep looking at myself. And I used to think, I do my inventory and I know what's wrong, and that's it, I'm recognizing my wrong, so that's it, that's good. But I come to see it's not, for me, it's not that. For me, it's like I recognize my wrong and I need to look at a solution how to do different, and try to do different, not only become willing, but do it, and sometimes I need, like, for example, if I look at, I'm being selfish. So I need to search, I can be selfless. What do I need to do to be selfless, And I still struggle with the pausing through the day, with the restraint of tongue doesn't come naturally with me. And that helps too, And there was a time I used to go and if I feel agitated, my heart was beating fast, or my head all over the place, I was able to stop and say, okay, what is my heart telling me? That's because someone had said to me, recovery is the longest road between your head and your heart. Try to think what your heart feels, And I used to do that, and it was quite powerful. There's a lot of things I learn on the road, but I can, I can learn. I learn very quickly, but I forget even quicker. And that's why I need to stay close to a day at a time, try to keep doing what's suggested, keep an open mind and keep an open heart. My mother was my number one resentment, and it was a struggle, when I was 7 years, I would say, off the drink, because I don't know how sober I was. I was abstinent anyway. And my father died, and again, there was a lot of trauma, and I knew if I took a drink, it was so real that I wouldn't stop at one, and I would probably get a blackout, and I would probably murder my mother. And I had been at a meeting where I heard a man 7 years in AA, I took a drink and murdered his wife in a blackout. So I knew I was capable of doing it. That's one of the yet, and there's still many yets. And I knew I needed AA. I got on my knee and I lifted up the phone, and I have to keep, with my mother, I have to keep doing step 4, and I don't want to do more than one step 4. Step 4, when I have resentment, I need to do what the step 4 tell me, and I need to keep looking at me. And I come to see, that, my mother is making me resent her. My mother is giving me fear, and it's not what's happening. What's happening is I resent her, and I'm feeding that resentment. And it's myself I need to start making amend to, instead of expecting her to make amend to me. And I can make amend to myself by stopping feeding those resentments and stopping feeding those fears. Stop living in the drama, stop living in the story, and live in the solution. And I'm going to leave it here, Mosi. I don't know how long I talk. Thank you, Mosi.
Thanks, Blandine. Thanks for getting me out of the water. It was lovely to hear you. I'm glad I got to know you. I'm glad to call you a friend. And you've been very kind to me. The first time I met you was up in Morden Point, of all places. And you just came in and dropped off a plate of croissants to us. You wouldn't come in to us that day, but you came in again. I'm inside my camper van. If anybody gets to see the camper van over the summer when I'm back on the road again, look inside on my right hand shoulder. The Serenity Prayer is there that Blandine gave me, and there it'll stay. So thank you for sharing this evening, Blandine. And I don't care what Bruce says about you. I think you're all right. So that's it, guys. Holly's going to read the promises. Sorry, Kathy, you're sacked.
Thank you. I'm Holly. I'm an alcoholic, and I would like to try to do what Happy Kathleen did at Knock. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we're halfway through. We're going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We'll lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them.
Thank you, Happy Holly. We've upgraded your name now, seeing as how you can do that without looking at the script. Thanks, Holly, for that. Kathy for doing the preamble, I think it was. Kathleen for not doing Timekeeper today. Karen for doing Timekeeper. And everybody for sharing. And of course, Blandine, you're the star of the show. It's your birthday today. I think we should all sing happy birthday to Blandine. What do you think, guys?
Yeah.
Happy birthday
to
to you.
you.
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to
you.
you.
Happy
birthday,
birthday,
Blandine.
Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to
to
you.
you.
And that will be left in the recording.
Oh.
So
Oh,
that's it, guys.
wow. Thank you, honey.
Blandine, will you lead us out with the serenity prayer?
God,
God,
grant me the
Grant me
serenity
the serenity
to
accept the things
accept
I cannot
which
change,
change,
the courage to
Wisdom
change
to
the
change the
things
things
I
I
can
can't.
cast
things
down.
I
With
can.
the wisdom to know the
No
difference.
difference.
keep
And the wisdom to
back.
know the difference.
Hey,
Thank you all for a lovely meeting.
thank
Brilliant.
you.
Happy
Birthday,
Bye.
Blandine.